Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's event. My name is Ian McLean. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we live and work in the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, as we seek a renewed relationship based on a foundation of mutual understanding and respect. As participants in today's event, we're coming together as one. We believe everyone is free to be their true self and receive the same respect and opportunity regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, sexual orientation, beliefs, or language. We hope you'll join us in fostering a positive environment here today to ensure a safe and welcoming space for all. As always, before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsors and partners for today's events. Without their support, these programs would not be possible. So a thank you to our title sponsor, Conestoga College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning. Our silver sponsor is Gore Mutual. Our bronze sponsors, EY, The Boardwalk, and TD. Our community partners, the City of Kitchener, the City of Waterloo, Communitech, Cornerstone Association of Realtors, Explore Waterloo Region, North Guide, the Township of Woolwich, and Waterloo EDC. And thank you to our production sponsor, Goodco Productions, and our host venue of today, the Ken Sealing Waterloo Region Museum. So please join me in welcoming and thanking all of these partners. I want to recognize Chair Karen Redmond's joining us here today. Thank you for joining us, Karen. I think I see Councillor Mark Johnson from the City of Kitchener as well. Thank you for joining us. From the Chamber, sorry? Ross Earnshaw, there he is. Sorry, Ross, I didn't recognize you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. And from our KW Chamber Board, Gina Hoodle and Steph Soulis, I think are with us here. There they are. Today's discussion is another important one for our community. Together as a region, we're projected to be 1 million residents by 2050. Some of us think it'll be a lot sooner than that. And to stay on top of our growing population and the needs we have for our community, we've got to plan for that future. Today, we're going to focus on talent within the region. How we attract, develop, and retain talent will determine how our region competes, thrives, and evolves in the years ahead. So let's get started. I want to introduce a good friend, a partner I've worked with and the Chamber's worked with for many years, along with the Immigration Partnership, Charlene Hoffbauer. She's the Executive Director of the Workforce Planning Board of, and this always takes me a while, Waterloo, Wellington, Dufferin. So we've got to make sure we get them all. Charlene understands both sides of the talent landscape, having worked in HR, education, literacy, and has spent 17 years in workforce development. Her goal is to build relationships with partners looking to find unique solutions for the local labor market challenges we face and to tackle some of the bigger ones that go beyond our region. Her greatest strength as a local leader is sharing research and trends in easy to understand ways and connecting the dots for all of those like government, schools, employers, students, and job seekers alike. Today, I've asked Charlene to talk to us about what's happening in the current workforce landscape in Waterloo Region to set the foundation for the conversation we should be having in the years ahead. And so we've got fresh data, and she's going to come up and do a presentation, then we'll get into our panel. So please join me in welcoming Charlene Hoffbauer.
So I am not as tall as Ian, so I'll shift that. So as Ian said, I really want to provide some context for you and kind of get us thinking about what are the opportunities and threats as we move to 1 million, and where do we need to focus some of our energies. So give it a second here. So I want to start with, hopefully this works. The stat we all look at every single month, okay? This is the most reported statistic. It's the unemployment statistic, right? It's the one that I get phone calls about when I get a phone call from media. And right now, if you can look at that, you'll kind of see that the where it starts over here on the left is the Kitchener, where Kitchener started from, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and the top one is Ontario. So you'll see that they kind of switched places where Kitchener was actually having higher unemployment than the province as a whole. And you'll see we're starting to converge back together. Okay, so in April, it was 7.7%, and the province was 7.6. So we've seen a bit of a, despite the conversations about tariffs and things like that, we're seeing that unemployment rate start to fall a little bit. We do have one of the bigger unemployment rates in the province. I will be honest with that. We have for quite a while, so it is a higher rate. But that work? Okay. How is employment going? In comparison to the province, we have a lot more people who are 15 plus employed. It's about, it would consistently have been above the provincial rate, and the province has actually been declining. So they've actually seen, the province as a whole has actually been seeing employment go down, 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 down. And we're kind of like, we're going to go through a valley and come back up, right? You'll see we're going on the back up of a valley again. Okay. In fact, we're the #1 census metropolitan area in Ontario when it comes to this number. And Kamloops is the only CMA in the country with a higher employment rate than Waterloo region. So we're #2 in the country when it comes to people 15 and over actually working. In some areas of the province, this number is sitting at 50%. So those communities are going to be very, very challenged to find people, to employ people, and to get them engaged in their workforce. That is not our story here in Waterloo region. So this is the one that I've been watching for the past year. It's the participation rate. So if you're new to kind of data, participation rate is the percentage of your population 15 and over that is working or actively looking for work. So I'm going to tell you, 70 is an amazing number. 75, you're blowing it out of the water. That's kind of how data analysts look at it, because 25% of your population 15 plus is probably in school or is on mat leave right now or is retired, right? So you think about it, 70 is doing pretty good. So you'll see that KW has been blowing it out of the water for a year. We have had consistently over 70% participation for the year. We actually peaked at 71.7. And when I talked to my data consultant, he's like, how are you guys sitting at 71? And at that point, I think Guelph was sitting at 73. What are you guys doing over there? And I'm like, I don't know. We have an optimistic population when it comes to working and looking for work. That's pretty much what it comes down to. There's one community in Ontario that's under 50% right now. So that community is struggling. Or it's become a retirement community is the other side of that. So we're almost 5 base points above the province, and the gap has started to widen in January, where the province has started to see a little bit of a slowdown, and we're still kind of like, let's play this 70% game. We are #1 in the province when it comes to this statistic. When I looked across the nation, the only other regions in this in Canada that had higher rates than this were in the West. So think like the oil sands right now is sitting at a 76%. Is a young community out in the oil sands though. But some of the BC ones, Saskatoon amazingly has pretty decent participation rate. So it's like us and the West. And that's kind of the story as if we're thinking about how's our workforce engaging, what are they doing, and how successful they are. Just so you know, our neighbors next door, Guelph is #3 in the province. Barrie's is pretty strong. And so our economic region, which goes from like Brampton to Midland, is a little bit more optimistic when it comes to a workforce. So what are our current workforce realities? So Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge has grown faster than the province between 2020 and 2024. Our growth was 13.5% versus the province at 10%. We do have a higher median income than the province at 44,000 versus 42,000. But when we look at our neighbors in Wellington and Guelph, we're actually the lowest paying of the 3. So when we start to think about where could we grow as businesses, how do we get more competitive, we could look at our wages, honestly, because Waterloo is, I think, is the 2nd most expensive if I looked at the housing numbers behind Dufferin. That's because Dufferin feeds Brampton. So there are other issues there, right? So wage is one spot when we look at our neighbors, we're not maybe doing as great as our neighbors are doing. Between 2017 and 2022, we're seeing more people 45 to 64 leaving our region. Historically, we have always had a surplus of people coming in. We're actually starting to see an out-migration of that 45 to 64. And that raises questions that you can't find in data. Is it about housing? Is it about lifestyle choice? Are they still working here? Did they find new jobs? Because maybe one of those areas where they pay higher, the housing could be cheaper. And it also raises the questions of who's going to mentor our developing leaders? Who's going to mentor that 30-year-old? If we're starting to see an out-migration. So we're really interested in next year whether this 45 to 64 trend continues or whether we start to see that it has slowed down. So we'll have to see how that goes. So one area of concern for us is we need to have people in place who can mentor our future workforce. Oh, nope, that's wrong. My apologies. Oh, wait. So we also see that our youth are starting to disengage from the labor force. In April of 2024, we have 33,200 youth. Youth is 15 to 29 who are not participating, mean they're not working or looking for work. Some of those could be students, I do acknowledge that. That number has grown to 41,000 in a year. So we've added 8,000 youth to our not engaging. But I will say, kind of a weird stat, is it's driven by the 20 to 24 population. Those are our college grads, university grads, first-time job seekers, first-time professional job seekers. So the question becomes, why are they dropping out more than the high schoolers and those who are 25 to 29? So we have some very big questions to ask ourselves as a community as to why that group has decided to remove themselves more than the other two groups. There are silver linings, I promise. This isn't all doom and gloom. One of the challenges is our CMA, so Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge, is having problems keeping women 25 to 44, especially between December 2023 and December 2024. Oh, wait. There we go. So we actually saw that the population between December 2023 and 2024 went down 20,000 women. For the first 4 months of 2025, we're down another 3,000 women in that key age, working age of 25 to 44. For some reason, Waterloo Region is struggling to retain working-aged women. There are a number of things. We've had some conversations. Waterloo, this is how social and economic and workforce all come together. There is more domestic violence in Waterloo Region than some other areas. So some of those women may be choosing to leave the region. Is one factor. We had a conversation with someone, childcare is another issue. So social issues are now affecting workforce capacity issues, which will affect employers. 25% of people aged 15 to 64 in Waterloo Region identify as having a disability versus the national rate of 23%. So we have more people who identify as having disabilities in Waterloo Region than nationally. A little bit of a profile of those people. This is Ontario data because Waterloo data gets all suppressed because the numbers are so small. But 52% of that population who has disabilities has post-secondary attainment. And 25% identify also as a visible minority, or 28% reporting as an immigrant. So if you're from a social services background, because I see a few in the room who are, we're now talking about intersectionality of barriers. So it's not just that you have a person with a disability now, you have a person with a disability who's in a new country. Okay, so some of these challenges we have to think about I'm from nonprofit myself and social services. So thinking about how do we support workers to make sure that they fully integrate into Waterloo Region employer roles, and making sure employers know that there are services that support them to help retain those people into those jobs. And finally, over 147,000 immigrants call Waterloo Region home, which is 25.4% of our population. 19% of that population arrived between 2016 and 2020. This is a census year, so I'm going to be really interested to see how many arrived in the past 5 years post-COVID. That'll help us reflect on how many of our students stayed, things like that. But I suspect we're going to see that be much bigger than 19% potentially. And 65% of those people hold a post-secondary attainment. So we're talking about even in our groups that we identify as, underserved or underemployed, there's a lot of post-secondary attainment and a lot of potential in Waterloo region now already. And we're probably just going to see that potential grow over the next, I don't think it's 25 years. I'm one of those people who think it's probably closer to 20 years. We're going to see that potential grow here in Waterloo region. And so when I do this, because I've just told you now about the profile of everybody, where do we work? So you're going to see that most people still work in sales and service jobs. So we have an underemployment issue in Waterloo region. Then you'll see it's trades, transport, and equipment operators. So when I talk about post-secondary attainment, I include tradespeople in that number. I don't separate them. I had a dad who was a millwright. I know what he went through. He went through post-secondary education equivalent to many other people. So I always make sure to include that tradespeople. When I talk post-secondary education, I'm talking about tradespeople too, okay? And then business, finance, and admin, education, law, social, community, and government, and then management. So that's where we tend to work as Waterloo. This is for the economic region, but Waterloo region is a big chunk of our economic region. So we're looking at where we work. That's where we work. And where the jobs grew. So the biggest job growth from 2020 to 2024 was in management roles. It was actually 55% growth. That is astronomical, followed by education, law, community, social, and government. So that's everything that's kind of like the supportive services that we as a community need, but doesn't include healthcare. So even that sector has seen a tremendous amount of growth. If you have kids in school like I do, you probably understand why that tremendous growth is happening. Natural applied sciences, that is our engineering IT fields. And we saw a lot of growth from 2020 to 2024 in that space. And then arts, culture, recreation, and sport is COVID recovery. That's all of those organizations finally got through everything and could start hiring people again and started seeing money come in and funding come in. So there's a lot of different things that are going on. And so if we're thinking about where we want to grow, these are some of the places where we know we have potential to grow. So what do our businesses look like? Because I always like to talk about, okay, it's great to talk about the workforce, but what do our businesses look like? So let me give you an idea of our business landscape. So we have about, as of December 2024, we have about 70,000 businesses in Waterloo region. That is 16% growth from December of 2022. So we have seen a lot of businesses start in the last 2 years. So if you are from business support or you're thinking about your colleagues in business, there's probably quite a few who are newer, okay? A lot of those have no employees right now. It's dominated by professional, scientific, and technical, and specialized services, what I'm calling it. That's real estate, construction trades, people, transportation, and warehousing. So most of our businesses in Waterloo region are owner-operator. Only 63 businesses in Waterloo region employ more than 500 employees. And that's dominated by manufacturing, education, and healthcare. And if we probably sat here, we could name all 63, right? If we really thought about it. I know in my smaller communities, they can name the 5 that exist, right? So we could probably, as a group, brainstorm this 63. But I want to talk a bit about where there's potential for growth, because while we're talking about attracting something new, we need to think about how we build our businesses that are here. So 9,469 businesses employ 1 to 4 people. Largely in professional, scientific, and technical, transportation, warehousing, construction, healthcare. Those 4 industries each have 1,000 businesses that employ 1 to 4 people. Imagine if we took that 9,000 and shifted them into the last 10. So the last 10,000 are like 5 people to 499. We can shift more of those as we move and as we grow. And so how do we support those businesses to get bigger, to have the land to grow? As I was talking to Lucinda, like how do we start doing that? So as we start thinking about adding, we also start thinking about growing what's successful and is homegrown. One other thing I want to bring up is we do have labor market impact assessments, which help employers bring in talent from outside the country. So there were 429 impact assessments that let employers bring in 809 temporary foreign workers between January and June of last year. We're no longer able to bring them in at the low wage category because our unemployment rate is over 6%. But there were and while that was the drive of it, there were a lot of highly skilled professionals who came in under this. So there's potential that even as we're thinking about this, like how are we doing our labor market impact assessments as a community, and how are we bringing in that talent, and what does that look like? So where do we work the most? Manufacturing, still number one, by about, I'm trying to do quick math, 14,000. Professional, scientific, and technical. So those are engineering firms. It's not necessarily IT. IT kind of has a, IT is weird. I'm going to say that right now, because when I always think something's IT and then I actually look up its industry classification, it's really finance or, so IT is all over the place. So IT now in my mind is just embedded into every industry. Professional and technical, so our lawyers, our accountants, there's more in there. There are some things in there that are IT based. Our retail, our healthcare, education, construction, finance, and insurance. Those are our big ones, okay? And when you look at that list, there's a lot of potential for post-secondary, people who have post-secondary attainment to move, to shift, and to do other things. So when we think about it, knowing who's here, we kind of do have the industry base. And so how do we keep that industry base to make sure that all this new talent that's going to be bringing even more post-secondary has jobs? We'll worry about housing later. I think that's another pillar. But they'll have jobs. Where did our industries grow? So number one, insurance has really grown in the past two. So the top number is 2020, and then it's 2022, and then it's 2024. So you can see if the growth was like right post, like in COVID, or whether it was post-COVID. So finance really took off after kind of, I'm going to say 2022 is kind of the end of COVID. It really took off after COVID. Public admin, it's kind of slow and steady, right? Professional, scientific, and technical, that growth really happened 2020 to 2022. It's been kind of slow since 2022 with only 7,000. Info, cultural, recreation, that's some of our IT. It's kind of been slow and steady as well, that growth over the past 4 years. Transportation kind of really took off 2022 to 2024, which is interesting. We'll see how it does in 2025, because I am hearing about slowdowns, but we'll see if that's the case. Business building and other support. So that's everything from employment services to some other things. That's kind of been a little slow. Healthcare really took off in the past 2 years. 12,000 extra people now work in healthcare than between 2020 and 2022. So we're seeing that some industries are still potentially in growth mode. As of the end of last year, they were. So those are important things to think about, and who is doing that growth, and what does that look like? So I had a staff person pull us some stats. We have a site called Find Your Job. It is, if you're into labor market, you can sign up for an account and you can like do all this neat stuff and add jobs and add industries and see what's happening. But she pulled some data for me, and this is data as of May 9th. So this is as live as I can get it for today's presentation. So right now in Waterloo region, there are 4,000 active job postings. Last May, for the whole month, there were 11,000. So we're a week in. So we may come close to last year's numbers. We've actually seen a steady decline in the past 2 years of online job postings. And as employers, some employers are shifting away from online job postings. That means we will never capture this data again. This is one of the few ways we can capture posting data. Our employers are posting for about 10 days and they're taking it off. A year ago, that number was 35, which tells me there is a large pool of people to choose from, and employers can be picky. There's about, right now, 1,700 companies hiring. Last year was 3,500. And the top 5 skills in demand, which probably are not going to surprise you. Number 1 is communication. It has been probably for the past 3 years, which is very interesting because communication in every industry is different. If you're sales, you have a very different skill set than you do on the manufacturing floor. Management, which is probably no surprise because I just told you 55% job growth in management roles. Driving, and that's probably a lot of our delivery services. You know, we all do stuff online. Well, we need drivers for that. Operations and leadership. So that's kind of the skill set that's driving our employers. So as we start thinking about who we're attracting into our community, this is kind of a, here's the industry base we have, here's who we've got, who are we missing? Because as we move forward with attracting talent, we have to think about who's missing. So think of this as your skills need gap analysis. And so hopefully this conversation moves forward. We'll talk about some of those solutions and ideas to help fill some of those gaps. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Charlene. And you're shorter than I am, so I'm going to lift that back up. Appreciate the insight, and it's always useful as when we sit at the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region table to get this kind of data, and it's constantly evolving and changing. It did through COVID, it has since COVID, and now as we move forward. We know talent is essential to our economy, both now and into the future. On our journey to being 1 million people here in the community, we got to think that's another 300,000 people coming here in the next 20 years. Roughly speaking, someone can argue with the numbers, but I think Lucinda and Tony and the gang would say that's roughly 100,000 new jobs that we have to create in 20 years. We have three world-class post-secondaries that are going to help us along the way, and that's a great catalyst for this community. But I think what we know here in Waterloo Region is most, and particularly in Canada, but in this region specifically, the jobs of our future will be highly skilled. Think both public sector jobs, private sector jobs. For the most part, we have to think that everything from trades to professional services to technology to the service industry, everything is going to rely and depend on technology in one form or the other. So it's really important for us to dig into that conversation. And so I want to pivot now to and introduce our moderator for the panel for our discussion tonight, which is the future which is the future of talent in Waterloo Region. So I'm pleased our moderator for today's discussion is Norma MacDonald-Ewing. Norma is a facilitative leader and award-winning educator dedicated to enhancing employee experience, inspiring adult learning, and strengthening communities through authentic relationships and meaningful collaboration. As Associate Vice President, Employee Experience and Development at Conestoga College, she brings over 2 decades of experience fostering inclusive, engaging environments where individuals and organizations thrive. A certified professional coach, Norma holds a BA and an MA from the University of Waterloo and is recognized for her leadership with the YWCA Women of Distinction Award, the Aubrey Hager Distinguished Teaching Award, and the King Charles III Coronation Medal. Passionate about community capacity building, she continues to contribute her time and leadership to a range of educational and civic organizations. So please join me in welcoming Norma to the stage.
I got so excited about that introduction, I could hardly walk. Thanks, Ian. And welcome, everyone. So it's now my pleasure to introduce the panelists for this afternoon's discussion, and you're in for a real treat. Our first panelist, Caitlin McGregor. Caitlin is the CEO and co-founder of Plum. She's passionate about helping people reach their true potential. Sure, Caitlin. That's why, after building 2 businesses for other people, she founded Plum to help organizations fully leverage the human potential within their workforce. With Plum, business leaders gain access to vital talent data that aligns employees with roles where they'll flourish, setting the stage for the entire business to thrive. She's a regular speaker at global events, including CES, Human Resource Executive HR Technology Conference and Exposition, America's SAP Users Group Women Connect, HRCI Higher Standard Summit, and more. Caitlin is also a sought-after guest on podcasts, including Recruiting Daily, Recruitment Flex Podcast, and 360 Insights. In addition, she has been quoted in the New York Times, Financial Post, the Globe and Mail, The Record, Global News, Human Resource Executive, and Benefits Pro. Caitlin was selected for the EY Entrepreneurial Winning Women and the Worthy 100. She's also a Bronze Stevie winner for the Best Female Entrepreneur in Canada and a Gold Global Women World Awards winner for Achievement in Innovation. She was named an inspiring leader by Inspiring Workplaces. Please join me in welcoming Caitlin. Thank you, Caitlin. I am also equally pleased to introduce Lucinda Wallace as a panelist. And Lucinda, you can come up too. It's always a little uncomfortable when your introduction goes on so long. And thank you, Caitlin, for making your way to the stage. Lucinda is a highly accomplished business leader and directs the strategy, funding, finance, HR, and marketing operations at Waterloo EDC in her role as Senior Vice President. Her breadth of experience includes North American leadership roles in procurement, marketing, sales, and general management, with a previous 25-year tenure as an executive with Waterloo Region's largest food manufacturer, Dare Food Limited. Lucinda is currently a board member of the Accelerator Center, board member and chair of the Governance Committee for the Humane Society of Kitchener-Waterloo, Stratford and Perth, and a past mentor for the local Women in Communications and Technology organization. An alumni of Wilfrid Laurier University and a resident of this area for over 30 years, Lucinda has developed a strong network locally as an enthusiastic advocate of our region. Thank you for joining us, Lucinda. And thank you, Ian. Come on board. Our final panelist, a man who doesn't need an introduction to this audience, Ian McLean. Yeah. President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce, a role he's held for the past 15 years. He's a former small business owner with experience in both the private sector and provincial government, and continues to be a business owner. Ian currently serves as chair of the Waterloo Regional Police Services Board and holds leadership roles on several boards, including Knox College at the University of Toronto, the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region, BEST WR, and Canada's Innovation Corridor Business Council. Now, written by Ian, he's also a very proud dad of 2 amazing daughters, and his own words, one great dog. Ian. I can add in, I had the opportunity in preparation for today to meet with Ian, and I have to tell you, his passion for Vision 1 million exceeds no other. So thank you, Ian. Please join me in welcoming all 3 panelists. So, today's discussion is organized into key themes: skills and the future of work, talent attraction and retention, infrastructure and investment, and inclusive workforce development. And we have about 40 minutes with the panel, and I'll watch the time, so we won't have them worry about that.
They'll start
Waving, yeah, exactly. I always like to let the audience know, 40 minutes. 40 minutes, good. So Caitlin, we're going to start with you. We often hear about skills of the future, but what does that really mean? In your view, what are the skills people need most to succeed in the changing world of work?
So I think in this day and age, a lot of people default to thinking about things like Python coding skills or, a very specific hard skill and the importance of learning that. And I challenge all of us to really recognize that there is a shift in terms of how to think about which skills are most valuable moving forward. And there's a great framework that's been adopted in the education space that we're starting to slowly see transition into the HR space. And it's the understanding of durable skills versus perishable skills. Perishable skills typically are those hard skills like a software engineering person needing to learn how to code in Python. The half-life of those hard skills, meaning 50% of those hard skills, will no longer be job relevant in 2.5 years. And this was a study done a year ago. The most recent studies are saying that time for that perishable skill to no longer be relevant may be coming down to a matter of months. And so we really need to look at, well, then if it's not teaching Python, for example, or name many other hard skills, if you think about when computers were introduced, on our job post, we said we needed somebody that knew how to do Microsoft Word or Excel. And that was because we were trying to assess if somebody was computer literate. So if we no longer are thinking about that kind of old dichotomy of hard skills, what is the alternative? And so there's this focus on the need to look at durable skills, which are things like innovation, communication, execution. We may have called them soft skills in the past. It's these human-centric skills that uniquely are going to be needed, as we can learn pretty much anything we want in a much shorter period of time now. The time to learn those hard skills is getting very, very small. We're used to, hey, if you want to learn how to change the oil in your car, you can go on YouTube. Well, now with, thanks to AI, we're going to be able to self-learn a lot of things a lot faster. So what we need to do is hire people based on those durable skills that are going to endure throughout their career. Like I said, communication, execution, innovation. It is those components that will become most valuable, because a lot of the jobs that people are going to be doing in the next 5 years are going to look very different than they did in the last 20 years. And so we actually, do you want to hire somebody who has done social media for the last 10 years, the way they've done social media for the last 10 years? Or do you want to hire somebody that's a clean slate? They say, go and figure out how to do social media differently over the next year or two, because the tools to do social media have just changed in the last year or two. The possibilities of what you can do in social media changed 3 months ago with Sora. So everything is changing so quickly that the last 10 years of experience actually may be holding somebody back from being able to do something brand new that's never been done before. So am I better off to look at somebody that is innovative and adaptive and a great communicator and say, go figure out how to do this completely differently than any of your peers, because we need to do things differently in order to stand out. And by the way, it doesn't cost a lot of money. We're just doing something different that hasn't been done. So that's kind of, when we think of skills, try to use the durable skills versus perishable skills and really rethink what's needed. And the research shows it's the durable skills that you're going to need moving forward.
Thank you, Caitlin. And you've got us off to a great start. I watched the audience write down or put in their phone durable versus perishable. So thank you. Thank you. Lucinda, you're up next. So a tough question. Is Waterloo Region doing enough to attract talent to our community? And do we have the right resourcing and ownership for talent attraction? Tough question.
Yes, it is. What I'd like to start off in saying, as Ian alluded, setting the context, we're going to have 100,000 more job seekers here very, very soon. Charlene added great context that our unemployment rate is fairly low. We've got good participation right now. So in that context, we are doing a lot of things well. We've got three great post-secondary institutions. We've got Workforce Planning Board, Immigration Partnership. We've got our municipal partners that are out there doing what they believe to be correct. We just put together a talent strategy with the region of Waterloo and our municipal partners. But as we look across the globe and even within Canada, you're seeing communities the same size as ours really come together and put together ownership, a single source of ownership for talent attraction. Again, we're generating great talent, but we need to retain that talent, and we've got to attract the right talent for this community. In comparison, a couple examples for you. Winnipeg, because I'm meeting with them right now. Winnipeg, which is roughly about the same size as us, right? They have 6 people within their investment promotion agency, like Waterloo EDC, that's all they're doing, is they're working with employers and they're helping them attract talent for those skill gaps and those job gaps. Quebec City, again, slightly bigger than us, around 750,000 people. They have 22 people doing talent attraction and looking not necessarily within Canada. There is a little bit of that, but also outside of Canada. So when I think about it, I'm putting together a summary. I'm working with our partners and our leaders, but I think it's going to be a big question as we think about being ready for 1 million people, and even just to retain our current large employers, is we need to work together as a community and think about, do we need ownership in this area? Do we need an organization or a few people to lead this and pull all of the great resourcing that we have in place and pull it together, so that we're out marketing and attracting talent from across the world?
Thank you, Lucinda. So a call to action, a community working together to meet our needs. Great. Ian, I'm picking on you a little bit throughout the rest of the program and the questions. So here's your question. Specifically, how critical are newcomers to the region in fueling the workforce of the future?
Well, because I'm a minister's kid, I'm going to come back to that question. But first, I want to start. No, I do want to say that I'm here in replacement because we were going to have from the region of Waterloo, Jonathan and Matthew that had done the talent strategy, which is an important piece of work for the entire community to understand the landscape. And unfortunately, this is why my staff does not leave me unattended. I managed to get the weeks mixed up, so they were double booked. So you get me. I apologize for that. But I would start just by saying it is going to take all of us together, and I think you both Caitlin and Lucinda have articulated that. It's going to take everyone working together, and we have to be coordinated in what we do regarding talent. The other thing I would just say is lifelong learning. I think the theme's already come out. We know this, and as we get the newcomers, we'll have newcomers coming to this community. All that new employment, and this has probably been the case already here in the region of Waterloo, but certainly moving forward, all that new employment in the Waterloo region is going to come from newcomers, people that don't live not only in Waterloo region, but don't live in the country. So we have to be ready for how do we welcome them? Do we have the infrastructure in place to welcome them to begin with so they can be successful? But more importantly, or as importantly, is will we be able to have the infrastructure in place so that they can continue to get those skills? It's shocking that the perishable versus durable skills, those perishable skills, we see that with every passing day. AI is changing the landscape. Most businesses don't understand a fraction of how it can help them or their workforce right now, but that change is coming fast. So, I mean, if all net new employment for this region of that 100,000 new jobs that are coming, 300,000 people coming here, most of them are new to the country, let alone to the region. We have to be prepared and welcome. And that's why this whole theme of Vision 1 Million of housing and transit and talent and the healthcares that we need, everybody needs to have those things. And I think that's what Vision 1 Million speaks to, is those core infrastructure pieces need to be in place as we think about the talent of the future. Because the newcomers are going to be the new tradespeople. They're going to be the new entrepreneurs. They're going to be the new business owners, because a lot of them are coming from other parts of the world where they're very entrepreneurial by nature. They're going to start their own businesses. So that's why the partnership with Communitech and with WEDC and the other chamber, the Cambridge Chamber and Explore Waterloo, those are where the entrepreneurs that are new to this community are going to build the companies and create the jobs moving forward. And so, you know, I think that's that's why the work that we do with at the chamber that I've done for 15 years and probably for 12 years before that. Nora's here from what was the Waterloo Region Immigrant Employment Network previous to the Immigration Partnership. We've been doing that work for 25 or 30 years. And so that is an incredibly important piece for our community. And the last thing I would say is you know, newcomers are you know, it starts with a lot of at the post-secondaries. We have a lot of students that are not newcomers, but foreign students. We got to try and keep them here. That's the first place we do is how do we keep those folks that are studying here and keep them here, because that's an incredible advantage that Waterloo Region has.
Thank you, Ian. I've had the privilege of hearing Ian speak before, and I know, Ian, you're really hoping that we can pull together, partner with each other, and create an infrastructure that allows us to achieve what we need to do in a very short time. Also highlighting it's up to all of us. Creating a welcoming community is a responsibility we all share, and newcomers will come to the place where they feel most welcome. Thanks. Thank you, Ian. Caitlin, we're back to you. So AI is reshaping the workforce, as you mentioned earlier, faster than most of us can keep up with. What role do you see Gen Z playing in the future of work, and how might they be uniquely equipped to lead in this moment? And I know, Caitlin, you touched on that a little bit in your first response, so you take it from there.
Typically, when early career, entry level people enter the workforce, and specifically it's Gen Z right now, 18 to 28-year-olds. When they enter the workforce, traditionally, they were put into low-level positions. I'm going to start with white-collar roles because that's what I'm personally more familiar with. They're put into very administrative, very repetitive types of tasks that you want a lower-level person that gets paid less to do. It's the boring stuff. We delegate the boring stuff to the entry-level people. What happens if the repetitive administrative tasks now are being done by AI? What's the on-ramp for early career? What's the on-ramp for people graduating high school, people graduating college and university? How do they get into the workforce? About 36% of entry-level jobs require 3 years of prior work experience. We have phenomenal co-op programs in this community. My nephew, who's at Laurel Heights in grade 11, is part of a co-op program. In order to graduate with the co-op certificate, he needs to do 4 weeks this summer in July of volunteer or paid work experience, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 4 weeks. No one wants to hire somebody for 4 weeks. So he is at jeopardy of not getting his his co-op diploma because he can't connect with an employer. There aren't low-level jobs that somebody wants to give at people. We've seen, and I don't have the most up-to-date numbers, but the co-op placements at the universities are getting less and less and less employers that want to hire co-op students. So there is a real disconnect between people that are Gen Z that want a job, but what jobs can they fill? Where are those on-ramps into their career? And if somebody doesn't have an opportunity to have those first 3 years of experience, how are they going to progress in their career? And then this is where it comes back to what I was saying with AI. Before, I was talking to my nephew, hey, if you were to get a 4-week co-op placement, somebody might teach you how to build a PowerPoint presentation. But guess what? If I taught you how to build a PowerPoint presentation, it may take you 10 hours to put together a PowerPoint presentation. If you go to ChatGPT and ask it how to build a PowerPoint presentation, I bet you can learn things that I don't know, and you could create that same PowerPoint presentation in 2 hours and it look much better and be following best practices better than what I would teach you. So the question too is who's teaching the entry-level positions, and would we even be valuable in terms of what we would teach them? Because there is opportunities for them to do things differently. Who's the teacher and who's the student? Because it's all changing, and it is Gen Z at 18 to 28-year-olds that can come in with a fresh perspective and adopt technology and adopt new ways and then teach the rest of the organization. So instead of seeing these entry-level people as maybe a burden that you have to train, or maybe tasks that now technology can do, maybe it's an opportunity for them to come in and breathe a new way of doing things into your organization from a fresh perspective. Ask them to go and figure out how to do things for your organization that have never been done before. So I think that there is an opportunity with Gen Z that if we don't take advantage of the opportunity, we're going to be left with a big problem of a whole bunch of people unemployed and not knowing how to connect to the workforce.
Thank you, Caitlin, and you leave us with a lot to be curious about. Thank you. Moving on, Lucinda, a fact-based question. Do we have the necessary industrial land to enable job growth for an increasing population? And how do we ensure local companies have supports for growth and continued foreign direct investment? Please.
Yeah, so just a little bit about Waterloo EDC for those that don't know. We've got two core mandates, the first of which is to help work with our municipal partners and help local companies expand and grow. And then our second equally important mandate is to bring new businesses into Waterloo region. So Waterloo EDC, we're really all about the jobs, right? We're helping local companies expand and create more jobs, and we're facilitating bringing international companies here to provide more jobs for the community. So we're all about jobs. And as we think about, as we said, with this whole 1 million, we've got 100,000 more jobs that we need to create. Waterloo region has the lowest industrial land vacancy in all of Canada at 1% or less. So right now, if you talk to our municipal partners, be it in the cities or the townships, they can give you lists of local companies that are looking to expand that can't find the appropriate industrial land or commercial property. So my answer to that is no, we don't. And it's going to take a collaborative effort in order to do that. And we're not talking about, there's been lots of publicity around different things, but we're talking about small plots of land for small, mid-size, large, and even the mega sites. And it needs to be something that we're continuing as we fill, that we continue to bring more online. I think it's just absolutely critical. And what I want to leave with is it's not just about bringing the new in. This is about allowing our great local companies to expand. When Charlene was talking about, a lot of our employers are 1 to 4. Well, if we want them to get to 10, 15, 20, where do they go? And that's going to take all of us. And I know all of your municipal partners, Waterloo EDC, the chambers, we've been talking about this. We've been working at it really hard, but it's going to take continued effort.
Thank you. And Lucinda, I just want to clarify, did I hear you say 100,000 new jobs?
Yeah, roughly speaking, if you
Yeah.
think about roughly, it's about a third,
Wow.
right? So.
Wow. Thank you. Ian, Charlene talked about skilled trades, and I'm going to ask a question related to that. What skilled trades and professional roles are most urgently needed right now to construct our regions tomorrow?
So I want to just pull on a thread that Lucinda did to bring it into what are the skilled trades we need. When you think about land assembly and the reason that anchor employers are so important. So if we think about Toyota and say they have 13,000 jobs between Woodstock and the Cambridge site, but there's something in the order of 27 to 30,000 jobs that are connected to that. That you have to have anchor employees if you're going to have the next 100,000 jobs. Who's the next anchor employer that are going to create the supply chain jobs, those small businesses that will supply larger companies? And when we talk about foreign direct investment and the work that WEDC is doing, one of the reasons that this was founded, I think it's an example of the region, all of the municipalities coming together and saying we are stronger together when it comes to investment. That we were doing this separately when I was on city council. Everyone had their own economic development corporation or officers, and we were not coordinated. We can have a long discussion about why that was and when we looked at that, but Schneider's going somewhere else was a wake-up call for everybody, that we lost an anchor employer because we were not coordinated enough. And I think it bears what Tony and his team do is 80% of all the new jobs or the growth in jobs are going to come from people that are already here, meaning businesses that are already here. And so it's important to have the land assembly because we don't have enough. But some of that assembling of properties is when a business says, I want to go to, I'm at 8, but I want to go to 18 and I need another, 10 acres or something for their site. We can't be in a position of saying, sorry, we can't help you out, because what that produces is someone going somewhere else. But to draw it towards skilled trades is, let's think about when we talk about what is it that we need everything. We need electricians, plumbers, heating and cooling, project management, finance, carpenters. everything under the sun. And the context of that is, let's remember what is, some of you have been for all these series, but you've heard about Vision 1 million. We're talking about a brand new hospital. It's about $4 or $5 billion. It's going to take, I don't know, 5 years or more to build. Think about all the trades that are going to be there. Housing, 70,000. This is rough numbers, but of all descriptions, whether it's affordable, high rise, low rise, take your pick, 70,000 housing units. How many trades are we going to require? LRT, we got to get going on that. We're going to be pushing hard at Best Waterloo to say we got to get that built sooner if we're going to build the homes and have all these things done. But think about that first construction of the LRT and all of the specialized trades that were required. The public infrastructure we haven't even touched on yet. We're going to need more rec facilities and all of the infrastructure that comes from a growing community from a civil perspective. And the anchor of that is the trades are going to build all of it. The last things I would say is that's great, or at least we've got our arms around that from this region's perspective. Every other community of any size in Canada has got the same issue we do. You can substitute LRT for a subway in Toronto, and you can but everyone needs more housing. Everyone needs more infrastructure. So we have to be conscious, and that's why our partners at Grand Valley Construction Association and Jeff and his team have been really trying to be innovative about saying we need to leverage technology. We need to leverage innovation. Even things like the partnership with Kim and the food bank of bringing in, folks that are challenged with homeless issues. But we know we have to put every bit of human capital that we have to work. And so the partnership that the Grand Valley Construction Association and Food Bank have of getting people placed into jobs, and now we know that there are people that have taken, that we've been able to place in jobs who have now gotten off the street, so just little things. We have to do everything, big to small, but and we're lucky to have the college, specifically on skilled trades, but the universities as well, to make sure that we have those. There's no way we can do it without skilled trades to be 1 million people in, as I say, call it 2050 if you like. It's more closer to it'll be more close to 2040 than it will be to 2050.
Thanks, Ian. We hear your call for collective action to be prepared for our tomorrow. Thank you. Caitlin, you lead a company focused on helping people uncover their potential. Ian's talked about the types of potentials we need. How can modern science-backed assessments help us rethink how we hire, how we upskill, and workforce development in a more equitable way?
So one of the problems that's happening right now is one that's been created because of AI, is that it's very easy for applicants to use a service like Easy Apply and apply to 5,000 jobs in their sleep. And so what happens is that the candidates can spam all of these job posts, and that means that the employer, they can post a job and get 2,000 people applying. The reason the jobs are coming down so quickly from the job boards, as we saw, is because they're getting overwhelmed with so many applicants. They can't even respond to the ones they're getting. So there's this lose-lose scenario that's happening where candidates are getting discouraged because how is anybody going to notice them? They're not getting invited to any interviews. So what's the point? So they stop applying. And then employers feel like they can't actually identify who to bring forward to a structured interview, so it's not worth the hassle. And there's some nefarious stuff happening. Like if you get into it, there are really strong reports of foreign governments trying to place people into roles where then they get bank information and you're paying somebody remotely. Like it's a mess. So no wonder you're getting people going, wait a second, this is too complicated. I'm not even going to bother. And so there is an opportunity to say, how do we connect the people in this region that are looking for opportunities, that are looking for those on-ramps into companies, and how do we help the companies connect with the real people? There's almost this opportunity to go back to some of the basics. And so something that probably at some point in time people will become familiar with are assessments. And so there has been in the last 3 years this over rotation of we're going to assess for those perishable skills. We're going to put somebody through a coding test, for example. And the problem is that that's not actually solving the problem. If you go back to the beginning of the conversation, we're looking for those people that are creative, that think outside the box, that are going to be really fast learners and agile. You can assess for that. So there's a whole industry of soft skills, durable skills assessments. The problem is that the ones that you probably are used to taking, Myers-Briggs, aren't based in science. A lot of them were developed over 30 years ago, so they're costly and they're, a horrible experience where the applicant doesn't even get their own profile. So I built Plum 13 years ago, and 12 years ago moved to Waterloo. So I'm going to sneak in this story because I've been dying to say it. So 12 years ago, Communitech had an accelerator program to help small businesses grow. And they invested $40,000 into my business, which was from a lot of local angels that participated in this. And so for $40,000, I completely relocated to Waterloo and have been here for the last 12 years and have hired probably over 100 people. We're 20 now. We scaled up to almost 50 and now we're back to being 20. But over the last 12 years, we've hired well over 100 people that have gone on to work at other companies and been the on-ramp into their careers. And I created Plum to be able to assess these durable skills in a way that it's like LinkedIn, but not based on what you've done historically, based on what you could do if given the opportunity. An assessment that individuals could take to say, hey, what drives me and gets me out of bed in the morning and excited about the work I'm going to do is innovation or communication or working on teams or making decisions. And we provided an assessment that is free for candidates. So if you're working with job seekers, it doesn't cost them anything. And they take it once, and then they can advertise what makes them exceptional and have the words to explain what makes them exceptional. And regardless of past job experience, if you gave them an opportunity, where would they be beneficial? And so we have customers like Scotiabank that have been using us since 2020 to completely eliminate resumes for all their campus hires. So their campus hires, they were hiring from 5 elite universities in Canada, only business and finance backgrounds. And then they brought Plum in and eliminated resumes. And now they hire from 33 different colleges and universities across Canada. 40% of their hires are STEM and arts backgrounds, and they increased their hiring of underrepresented minorities to 60%, and they doubled retention. And it's because they got rid of, do you know Excel? What was your, grade point average? What school did you go to? What did you study? And they started looking at those transferable soft skills or those durable skills. And when you assess for that potential and you actually have, hey, this person is going to excel in roles that are out of the box, thinking is required and teamwork is required. When you assess first on these durable skills, you can quickly get to a short list of who you should bring in for that structured interview. But you have to be willing to recognize that somebody's going to learn the rest on the job. You have to be comfortable investing in potential. And I think this is the time more than ever to invest in potential and allow for space to learn on the job, because frankly, do we want them to learn how we did the job for the last 10, 20 years, or do we want them to learn how to do it differently? So we're seeing this shift of assessing right out of the gate everybody that applies, giving them value because they get something in return, and using that to shortlist who to bring in for a structured interview.
Thank you, Caitlin. And we know when we bring someone in who can work to what motivates them, what they value, and where their strengths lie, it works for everyone. Thank you. Lucinda, I'm moving along to a next question. Do we have the infrastructure keeps coming up this afternoon, affordability, and community supports necessary to not only attract but retain talent in Waterloo region? And I know you talked earlier about retaining.
Yeah, I think, again, coming from a Waterloo EDC perspective, how do we retain our large employers? How do we bring new businesses in here to create more jobs? That's by talent. If you talk to, I've got a couple of coworkers here, when they're out selling this community and working with local companies, the reason local companies are here and stay here and want to grow here is because of the talent that we have here in the talent pool. So once we have the talent here and we've attracted the talent here, we need to keep them. And right now, as everybody's aware of, and I'm sure it's the pillars of Ian's series, but we've got some challenges in order to have talent. Charlene was talking about women 25 to 44. Net migrating out of our community. I can tell you a big part of that is childcare. I can tell you that. We've got a coworker who went on the list 5 weeks pregnant. She is basically working part-time until the child is 18 months with us because she cannot get care. She's relying on her 72-year-old mother to provide care 3 days a week. So that's the situation. So it's childcare, it's health services, and it's housing, right? People, we need to have good jobs. We've got to have jobs across the spectrum. Not everybody's a lawyer. Not everybody is a electrical engineer. We definitely need to have good, well-paying jobs. And our organization loves what we do, and that's what we do. But we've got to focus on the other infrastructure. We have to make Waterloo Region a place that people want to live and they can thrive here. And it's some of those basic supports that, again, is going to take a coordinated effort in order to ensure. Again, we've got post-secondary institutions that are generating amazing, amazing talent. Are we retaining them? And if we're not, why aren't we? I think we really need to look to ourselves as a community and invest to make sure our kids, our grandkids can stay here and have really fulfilling lives.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucinda. How do we become a flourishing, attractive community? Thank you. Ian, I'm going to ask this question. We've touched on it a bit, and we're running a few minutes short on time. But I also want to share, because we want to leave the audience with a very personal question for each of our panelists. So over to you. With technology touching every sector, is every job truly a tech job now?
Yeah, I think there's nothing that anyone does. I mean, the technology, and I had a job when I was in high school at Jackmore Manufacturing making hinges for folding chairs. If I could do it, means anyone could do it. It certainly was not technology, but those jobs don't exist anymore, and I don't think we want those jobs here in Waterloo Region. So we need to start with the realization that technology isn't everything. And I think it starts with school age kids, whether it's in trades and the opportunities for them in technology and innovation. So we have to do that right from school age. And that whole concept of lifelong learners in Conestoga, and we're blessed to be here, but we need business to be participating in that too, and saying the reskilling has to happen in real time. And we've got folks like Xonify and others that are doing, constant training. Reskilling in real time is going to be, and the numbers that you said, Caitlin, are just shocking of how quickly those perishable skills truly are perishable. And I think understanding how we leverage AI and those sorts of things is going to be a topic of conversation if we're going to be able to have the talent for the jobs of the future.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. Now, unfortunately for Chair Redmond, I was sitting right beside her. And so I said, hey, would you like to participate today? So here's the rapid fire personal question for Chair Redmond and then each one of our panelists. Surprise. So Chair Redmond, starting with yourself, what's something you simply can't live without? And without tripping over the center, I'm going to pass the mic. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you very.
It's on.
Is it on?
Yep.
Thank you very much. And you gave me some warning, so I do appreciate it. I would say the thing that I cannot do without is vision. And I have to tell you that I came on this realization a few years ago when I was sitting in an airport with Matt Chandy, who is part of our economic team at the Region of Waterloo. And we were talking about the things that matter and the things that are important. And you have been a brilliant panel and you've made some really, really good points. We're in a foot race, not in the region of Waterloo, but globally. And we have to attract talent and keep it as well as an investment. I was over there meeting with Airbus and NavBlue because we have this amazing local airport. But when you talk to industry globally, and very often we're looking at people that already have a footprint, whether it's Germany, France, or Italy, and they're looking at expanding here. And one of the things that makes us so attractive is actually the caliber and the education of our workforce. So I think we need vision so that we can be at the head of the line as we continue to be one of the fastest growing areas in Canada and certainly in Ontario. But any road will take you there if you don't know where you're going. So I think having people, smart people in all of community feed into this vision is really what's going to get us where we need to be. I was talking to Alan Cayenne earlier about festivals. In this context, if we're standing still, we're moving backwards. So we have to have the vision to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Redmond, and thank you for your leadership. So back to our panelists. And Caitlin, we'll start with you. What's something you simply can't live without?
So I'm going to answer it, but I have a question for all of you first. There's a few people I think that are younger than me, but not a lot. And I think we're all kind of in this generation. Do you remember before you had a smartphone? Okay. Do you remember getting your first Crackberry? I hope a lot of you had Blackberries in this region. Okay. Do you remember talking to people that didn't have a smartphone and you being one that finally got it? You're like, I get it. I have a Crackberry. I have a Blackberry. I get it. Or an iPhone. You remember that? Like the people that got it and the people that didn't? And really what it took you to get it was to have it and start using it and see how it transformed your lives? Okay. So I'm assuming everybody has a smartphone today. It's 2025. How many of you go in multiple times a day onto your smartphone and you click that Chrome app or you click that Safari app and you Google and ask a question? How many of you right beside that app have downloaded ChatGPT or something similar that is an AI-powered app? About 5% of you. My challenge to you is all today, go and download. I use OpenAI's ChatGPT. I pay $20 US a month. I have the team account so that I don't run out of credits. It's just infinite. And I force myself, instead of pressing that Chrome app to Google something, I force myself to open up the ChatGPT app. And so instead of saying, Googling, does every country celebrate Mother's Day yesterday on Sunday? I just can put on the dialogue feature and ask. I'm not even voice to tech, I'm just dialogue. And I'm saying, hey, ChatGPT, does everybody celebrate Mother's Day at the same time? And instead of bringing up all these articles that I have to read, it will tell me back. It will speak out loud as if it's a human. Hey, Caitlin, actually, no, not all countries celebrate Mother's Day the same time. Canada, the US, they celebrate it on the second Sunday of May, but the UK celebrates it on this day. And Thailand celebrates it on the Queen's birthday. And it'll read to me, it'll just speak to me and educate me in real time. The way that we have been researching has completely changed in the last year. And so the thing I can't live without is my ChatGPT OpenAI app, because I try to force myself to use it instead of Google, because it's forcing me to do things differently and learn new possibilities.
Thank you, Caitlin. Learning new possibilities, that's critical. Lucinda.
Well, I think the context of this discussion today and just geopolitically, I think the thing that I simply can't live without and I don't want to work without is collaboration across communities, across different demographics, different populations, organizations, for profit, not for profit. I think that's been the secret to our success historically. And I think it's going to be absolutely foundational and critical for us as a community to solve these problems. And these, not problems, but challenges that we have and opportunities, is we've got to work together. We've got to be Team Waterloo Region. And as Chair Redmond said, it really is. Our competitors is the rest of the world, right? Not each other. So for me, it's collaboration.
Lucinda, that's inspiring. Thank you. Ian.
Well, I will say I can't live without my chamber team, because we do a lot, we punch above our weight, and I got the best team. I would say my kids, but because they keep me grounded. But in the context of this, I would say a caring and connected community. And it's a little bit what panelists have said and Karen has said, it's going to take all of us together to be a successful community. And I guess, I'm not sure if it was Chris Albinson or Ian Clegg, but one of them from community said, we're going to grow. The real question is, are we going to be a community worth living in? And I think that's one where when we think about caring, connected community, that's what I don't think any of us can live without.
And I'll just share, I mentioned this at the start, but when I had the opportunity to talk with Ian in preparation for today, he just exuded passion for Vision 1 Million. And Ian, we hear that in everything you say, so thank you. I want to take an opportunity right now to ask you to join me in thanking our panelists. At Conestoga, we're very serious about the role that we play in this community. We often talk about our role as a community developer. And if you asked us at Conestoga how we define community development, it's helping others help themselves. How can we be pivotal in helping others help themselves? And of course, as everyone in this room knows, we're really passionate about ensuring that we have the workforce that we need to have in place to be the community where people want to come, want to live, and where everyone can flourish. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to you, Ian.
Sure. Just as we wrap up, I want to thank once again all of our speakers, except for me. But Norma and Lucinda and Caitlin, thank you for spending some time with us today and collaborating once again on the needs of what the talent needs are for our region. As we close today's event, I would like to thank our incredible sponsors once again. Our title sponsor, Conestoga College; silver sponsor, Gore Mutual; our bronze sponsors, EY, the Boardwalk, and TD; our community partners, the City of Kitchener, the City of Waterloo, Communitech, Cornerstone Association of Realtors, Explore Waterloo Region, North Guide, the Township of Woolwich, and Waterloo EDC. Our production sponsor, as always, our friends at Good Co Productions, and our host venue here at Ken Sealing Waterloo Region Museum. And a special thank you to our hospitality partner today. I don't know if she's still here, but to Food Zen for supplying lunch today. And finally, thank you to you for participating today, and for those that watched online for this important discussion, your continued support of the Chamber's events and programs. For additional networking opportunities before we break for the summer, be sure to explore our full calendar of upcoming events on our website at greaterkwchamber.com. Thanks once again, and have a great afternoon.